Well, a very good evening, viewer, and thank you so much for joining us on GBS Late Night News. My name is Eric Munene. Now, Education Cabinet Secretary Jacob Kaimenyi talked tough on striking teachers, further urging the aggrieved unions to seek redress at the industrial court. The visibly irritated Kaimenyi, who gave a chronology of events in regards to industrial action by teachers since 1997, said there was no single collective bargaining agreement between the teachers and the government, and what the teachers were referring to were legal notices which had been amended over the years. He added that the teachers risked having their salaries not paid for the entire period that they have been out of class. Legal notices whose original form had been amended severally and could jeopardize the gains achieved by teachers in as far as their allowances are concerned.
You see, these are ad hoc decisions, legal notices, and derived from arid scenarios. And they are not in the interests of best practices, if you will. And we don't want, from now on, we don't want to encourage that. All parties, be it Coopet, be it KUT, or Pusetu for that matter, they must subscribe to the process as contained in our laws. Basically what you are saying that really that legal notice, if it is to supersede the other one, what that means is the legal notice of 534/1997. You know the implications.
Kaimenyi has further urged the aggrieved unions to ask their members to return to work and pave for dialogue.
Subsequent to raising issues, it is our duty to sit down as peace-loving Kenyans, men and women who love structure in the way we implement our policies, to sit down, to dialogue with each other so that we can resolve our problems. Dialogue is the issue.
Industrialization Cabinet Secretary Kazungu Kambi said the 1997 Gazette notice that the teachers were referring to was amended in their full knowledge, and going back on the matter was a breach of contract.
We fulfilled all the obligation as per Gazette notice number 534. And when we are amending that Gazette notice number 534 of 1997, the teachers were part and process of the amendment of that Gazette notice.
Meanwhile, we might not see the immediate benefits of the laptop project initiated by the Jubilee government, but Education Cabinet Secretary Professor Joseph Kaimenyi says it sure will pay off. He says the number of benefits of the project outweigh the disadvantages, further calling for support from the public at large. Still on matters education, teachers' unions and their employer Teachers Service Commission will be waiting with bated breath for Monday next week when the Industrial Court issues a directive on the case filed by TSC seeking orders to stop teachers from carrying on with the ongoing strike. In its petition, government through TSC argues that both the unions, Coopet and NAT, ignored the labor legal procedures in summoning the strikes that have since paralyzed learning in all public schools.
After hearing the petitioners' and respondents' arguments today, Lady Justice Lynette Ndolo directed that the ruling on the case filed by TSC against the teachers' unions, Kenya National Union of Teachers NAT and the Kenya Union of Post-Primary Education Teachers Coopet will be determined on Monday morning next week. The Teachers Service Commission had filed 2 applications against the 2 unions seeking orders to bar teachers from proceeding with the ongoing teachers' strike.
The petitioner and the employer does not have a case at all. And therefore we expect them to stay put and ensure that when the ruling comes out on Monday, it will be in our favor.
TSC said public school students are being denied the right to education, yet they are not party to the dispute. On the other hand, the unions claim their move is legitimate and within the confines of the law.
It is now to say there is no dialogue. The teachers feel they have been denied what is lawfully theirs, and they will not be ready to continue teaching until these issues are addressed. They resort to the strike as a last measure. They have shown you they have been able to move through the machinery, and they are still frustrated. It's not bearing any fruit.
According to TSC, the dispute can be resolved between the parties. However, the unions maintain talks are overdue and have failed to strike a substantive deal. Samuel Tawish, GBS News.
Now, away from matters education to matters health, Kenyatta National Hospital, together with AMREF and Freedom from Fistula Foundation, has kicked off its 8th annual National Free Obstetric Fistula Medical Camp, where women suffering from the disease get free treatment. Over 2,000 from across the country have so far benefited from the initiative, with more expected to benefit this year. The First Lady Margaret Kenyatta officially launched the 2-week camp at the Kenyatta National Hospital.
Some experts suggest that in parts of Africa, as many as 3 to 4 women develop these fistulas out of every 1,000 births.
Fistula is a condition that is a mystery to many, especially those living in rural areas, and woe unto her who will be unfortunate to suffer from it, because she will become an outcast in that society. Worse still is that sometimes the women themselves do not know about the disease and end up living with it for a long time. Some who know about it cannot afford the cost that comes with the correctional operation. While offering free treatment, the initiative also seeks to create awareness of the disease and the services at Kenyatta National Hospital.
I am therefore pleased that this year's theme, Capacity Building for VVF Care in Kenya, seeks to address these challenges by enhancing the capacities of health systems to prevent, repair, and support women with obstetric fistula, and also improve access to and utilization of safe motherhood services.
Carol Ngesa and Laurentia Ishmael are some of the women who benefited from the initiative after long suffering from the condition.
Sikukuwa nimejua vile kunaweza endelea, kwa sababu nilikuwa nafikiria watu wanakaa hivyo juu ilikuwa ni mtoto wa kwanza. Sasa lakini wakati nikuja nikatafuta usaidizi nikaona yenyewe hivi sio vile watu wanakaa.
At a tender age of 12, Carol got fistula while delivering her first baby, who later passed on. After 6 years of suffering discrimination and stress caused by the effects of fistula, she finally learned about the free services at Kenyatta National Hospital.
Sasa marafiki wakanitenga, relatives wakaenda. Sasa nilikuwa tu nimebaki tu in my own world peke yangu tu. Ndio 2008 nikakutana na watu wa AMREF walikuwa wamekuja camping huko Ngong. Ndio hapo nikaongea nao, kuna mama anaitwa Jennifer. Ndiye akanielekeza huku, kukuja huku nikapatana na Dr. Kisa akanipea procedure. Nikakuja nikatibiwa na nikapona.
Fistula often affects women who do not attend at a natal clinic and those who deliver at home. During the clinic visits, birth complications can be detected in time and avoided. The obstetric fistula medical camp will last for 2 weeks, during which 150 women from across the country are expected to undergo the correctional operation. It is a treatment that usually costs 55,000 Kenyan shillings and above. Giving birth to a baby is one of the many things that defines a woman. With it comes with the dignity of being called a mother. But sometimes it comes with fistula, a condition that takes away the very dignity the woman was seeking. But the good news is that with such initiatives, the dignity can be restored even for the women who would have otherwise not afford the cost. Namkabo Werunga, GBS News.
Now, in this century, organizations have acknowledged the importance of information and communication technology and moved from the analog world to the digital one. The East African Communications Organization, IACO Congress and Exhibition has this week summed up deliberations that will see the ICT sector advance socio-economic development growth in the country. Speaking during the official opening of the Congress, the Deputy President pledged the support of the Jubilee government to all the IACO initiatives. He urged the ICT experts to ensure that the region and the African continent at large keeps up the pace in the implementation of global communication initiatives.
The last general election in our country was contested on an ICT platform. And the contest was between what was then called an analog team and a digital team. And you know what happened, The digital team won the election.
Deputy President William Ruto today encouraged the communications industry to spearhead and accelerate the opening up of the East African region by availing seamless communications connectivity in the region.
Doing this, to harmonize policies and regulatory framework to create a single greater East African market, bringing together over 120 million people and creating an attractive investment environment through integrated industrial governance system.
He encouraged innovation in ICT to empower more people and optimize lifestyles. Ruto urged governments and regulators in the region not to assign the building of communications infrastructure exclusively to the private sector, adding that a public-private partnership framework is ideal.
East Africa, and indeed the entire continent, must stop relying on donor support to finance development and shift to attracting investment to spur growth. This is the only way to achieve realistic growth and create employment opportunities for our young people in our ever-growing population.
A clear spectrum policy that will help realize digital migration and the penetration of mobile phones in reducing the cost of mobile services were among the key issues that were addressed by the Deputy President.
Mobile money transfer handles over 670 billion annually. That's in Kenya shillings. Much more than any bank in the region has been able to accomplish in many years.
Cabinet Secretary for ICT, Dr. Fred Matiang'i, called for investment in digital TV broadcasting to enhance development of relevant local content in local languages for the growth of the East African region.
As a region, we need to harness also the creative talent of youth, most of whom are unemployed, to increase the proportion of local content in the broadcast sector. And we have undertaken, as government in Kenya, several policy actions to support the development of local content as a way of supporting our youth.
The IACO Congress and Exhibition has seen the Deputy President and other delegates from the East African region address on how ICT will improve the socio-economic development of the country. Diana Mbogwa, GBS News.
Now, the recently disbursed county government funds could take time before the Wananchi feel the effects. This is due to the fact that the country is undergoing a transitional period and a lot needs to be done to align the former local governments to the new system of governance. It is against this backdrop that the Office of the Auditor General is undertaking an audit with a view to recommending possible action plans so that the devolved funds can be absorbed faster in the counties. The Government Auditor General Edward Oko says the report of the audits in the counties should not be viewed as a tool for witch hunt by governors, but will act as a tool to enable the county assemblies carry out their oversight role over the county executives.
And, this audit is going to be very, very important because I'm telling the governors, please cooperate with me. Let me do this audit because the aim of this audit is to try and identify weaknesses and give you recommendations which can help you go forward, even as we now expect this 210 billion to come.
The Auditor General adds that devolution will work only if and when accountability is open for scrutiny by all.
Really, we must look at this thing, how we've been in the past and where we are going. And I clearly saw that my responsibility to Wanjiku are in three pillars in the context of accountability. First of all, what we call fiscal accountability. Then I realized that there's a strong element in the Constitution which required that I must also look at managerial accountability. But above all, to also look at the delivery accountability to Kenyans.
He assured governors that his office is ready to assist county governments in their endeavor to improve on-service delivery. So far, several bank accounts opened by the former local governments are yet to be closed as they should be, which could be an avenue for misappropriation of funds disbursed to county governments. Let's now go back to matters education, but this time on a lighter note. The 21st graduation ceremony of the Jomo Kenyatta University of Agriculture and Technology took place today at the Graduation Square at the institution's main campus in Juja. Students were awarded different certificates in different fields. Over 2,400 graduates were conferred with degrees and diplomas in different fields, while 22 others received PhD certificates.
Okay, out there, as per now, what they're looking for there in terms of the job market is experience. So at least we have programs like graduate trainees. That's what you are at least applying for most of the time, at least to get the experience in the job market, as far as I'm concerned.
Nowadays in Kenya, to find employment very hard even after graduating. So if you come up with a good idea that you can be able to create employment for other people, I think the best way to go right now.
Let's now cross borders. The United Nations Security Council has unanimously voted to ease sanctions against Iraq more than 20 years after former President Saddam Hussein invaded Kuwait in 1990, welcoming progress on resolving pending issues from the invasion.
Unanimously adopting the new resolution, the Council called on the Iraqi government to continue searching for Kuwaiti nationals and property missing since 1990 raid, but terminated provisions in earlier texts that allowed military enforcement of the measure under Charter 7 of the UN Charter.
Today there was a very, very important Security Council resolution on Iraq-Kuwait relations. And this resolution is a historical resolution for Iraq, and it's a success for the United Nations and for the two countries. In fact, Chapter 7 and the sanctions regulations on Iraq has become something of the past. And as I said in my statement, we are concentrating more on the present and the future in Iraq-Kuwaiti relationship.
Immediately following the action in the Council chamber, Hosea Zuberi, Minister for Foreign Affairs of the Republic of Iraq, hailed the decision and told reporters that the resolution was a historic resolution for Iraqi and is a success for the United Nations and for the two countries.
This is a new beginning for the relations between our two neighborly and brotherly countries. And we feel very gratified by the unanimous vote of the Security Council on this. And this is an example for other countries also to resolve their disputes and differences through peaceful means.
In the aftermath of Iraq's invasion of Kuwait, the Council established the UN Compensation Commission (UNCC), which settles the damage claims of those who suffered losses in the invasion. As of January of this year, the Commission has disbursed some $40.1 billion for more than 1.5 million successful claims of individuals, corporations, government and international organizations, leaving some $12.3 billion remaining to be paid.
Thank you, Silva, for that story. Now, hundreds of diplomats, civil society members, academics and human rights experts have gathered in Vienna for a two-day conference to mark 20 years since the adoption of the Vienna Declaration and Program of Action, otherwise known as VDPA, at the World Conference on Human Rights in 1993.
The UN High Commissioner for Human Rights, Navi Pillay, commemorated the 1993 World Conference on Human Rights and its declaration at the Vienna Plus 20 conference with Austrian Vice-Chancellor and Federal Minister for European and International Affairs, who noted that the World Conference in 1993 was a huge success that had broken new ground.
It crystallized the principle that human rights are universal, indivisible, interdependent and interrelated, and firmly entrenched the notion of universality by committing states to the promotion and protection of all human rights for all people, regardless of their political, economic and cultural systems.
The Ottawa and Oslo processes on landmines and cluster munitions have proved that civil society organizations have become genuine partners of governments in the protection of human rights.
Also attending the event was women's rights activist Tawakkol Kaman, who spoke passionately of the struggle for freedom of expression and transparency as the essential requirements for democracy.
So me as a human rights defenders, I call all of you. When you listen, or when you hear, or you watch any people around the world who sacrifice, who struggle for the values that all of us working and defending for, which is dignity, freedom, democracy, you have to act very fast. You have to help them very fast. You have to convey their voice to your people, to the governments in your countries, to the international community.
Jan Eliasson, Deputy Secretary General of the United Nations, acknowledged progress, but he too drew attention to the conflicts in all regions.
There is no peace without development. There is no development without peace. And there is no lasting peace or sustainable development without respect of human rights.
20 years ago in Vienna, Austria, more than 7,000 participants gathered for the World Conference on Human Rights. The conference participants were able, ultimately, to put aside their considerable differences and agree on an outcome. Caroline Moura, GBS News.
Well, guess who does not want a beer with the president? Up next on GBS Sport News. Welcome to GBS Sport News. Now, the national sevens rugby team started the Rugby World Cup campaign in Russia on a high note after thrashing debutants Philippines 45-5 in a Group C opener at the Lizinski Stadium in Moscow. Humphrey Kayange and Felix Ayange scored 2 tries for Kenya before going top of Group C, relegating Samoa, who battled for a 21-14 victory against Zimbabwe in the other encounter.
Your picture, this is a historic moment indeed.
Kenya went into Cloud 9 as the sevens rugby team had a perfect start to the 2013 Rugby World Cup bonanza in Russia. The squad, making its second appearance in the World Cup since 2009, ascended to an impressive 45-5 win against a weakened Philippines during both teams' Group C opener. The team, under the stewardship of head coach Mike Friday, took control of the game from the kickoff as Oscar Ouma gave Kenya the first try in a space of 2 minutes before Biko Adema's successful conversion.
RFC, he opens Kenya's account in Rugby World Cup in 2013 here in Moscow.
Yeah, that was a confident start by Kenya. They were being put up.
Felix Ayange landed his try and Kenya's second, taking the tally to 14-0 before the Philippines reduced the deficit with a try before halftime interval.
Felix Ayange through the gap and strolling in under the post. There's a need to conserve energy as well as score points, isn't there, Ben?
There is, you know.
The wise thing is to go to ground, and the Philippines will get a penalty, and will they get a try? Could this be their first try ever in the Rugby World Cup? It's there. Referee White's arm goes in the air.
After the restart, a resurgent Humphrey Kayange landed 2 subsequent tries, breaking away from the debutants who had sloppy defending. Kayange scored his second in Russia and the 6th try since his World Cup appearance in 2009.
Kayange spots the gap again, and away he goes. A leisurely stroll to the try line this time, but that should seal it for Kenya. 4 tries to the good then.
Collins Injera, making his second global appearance after 5 years, extended Kenya's lead against the Asian opponents before Eden Aguero came off the bench to wrap a 45-5 win in stoppage time.
It's Ayange who gets away, and this time there'll be no question, I'm sure. Denied a try at the top of the second half, ran into the corner flag, but this time...
In the first Group C duel, Giant Samoa struggled to win against Zimbabwe with a 21-14 win in a nervous encounter. Samoa had a poor start against the African challengers, but took advantage of poor defending and experience to break down a compact Zimbabwe side. Kenya tops Group C following the excellent win as Samoa, was relegated to second place until the teams engaged in Saturday's matches.
I think it was Lavassa who just caught him.
World Sevens rugby champions New Zealand had an impressive start in Group D after securing a 31-12 win over Canada. England registered a 21-7 win over Portugal before Fiji and Argentina repeated similar feat in Group E and F. South Africa and Tunisia are the other African teams to score 4 points in Group A and B respectively. Mbaka Collins, GBS News.
Well, congratulations to the boys in their endeavor to ensure that they do not have a beer with the president as they explain to him what might have gone wrong in the Rugby World Cup. Now moving on to matters football, Spain and Italy played 120 minutes of fascinating football in Fortaleza with a sudden death penalty shootout required to separate the two sides. The adrenaline match saw Spain beat Italy 7-6 goals to qualify for the finals, where they will face Brazil in the last match of the Cup. Ken Juguna reports.
Mata once more, 3 to aim for here. There's the cross.
The conclusion finally came after Leonardo Bonucci blazed over from 12 yards to give Jesus Navas the opportunity to send his side through to the final in the Maracana. The Manchester City midfielder made no mistake to break Italian hearts and condemned Gli Azzurri of their 5th loss in 6 penalty shootouts in the FIFA competitions. Spain beat Italy 7-6 in a penalty shootout to advance to the final of the 2013 Confederations Cup. Italy had a great chance to score in the 36th minute. Emmanuel Giaccherini got some space on the left and fired in across to an unmarked Maggio.
The cross superb as well. Casillas makes the save.
His header was directed right at a grateful Iker Casillas.
Now Fernando Torres reverse ball here. Iniesta.
In the second half, Spain continued to have trouble getting much going on in their attack. Andres Iniesta was doing well to get forward, but his shots on a goal were wasteful. After the extra time, the teams were still at 0-0 and it was time for penalties.
Well taken.
Leonardo Bonucci was a villain and he was the only Italian to miss a penalty.
Bonucci, the crossbar from Bonucci.
The game ended on a 7-6 win for Spain. Spain will have a tricky affair match with Brazil on Sunday, while Italy meets Uruguay on a battle for the 3rd place position.
You cannot stop Spain.
Ken Juguna, GBS Sports.
Now, let's go to some interesting story. Kenya Football Federation, FKF, today held their annual general meeting at the School of Monetary Studies in Ruaraka, allowing only specific journalists accredited by the chairman himself to cover the event, as others were left outside the gates of the heavily guarded school. The journalists were not the only ones out on the cold, as the FKF delegates failed to reinstate suspended National Vice Chairman Sami Sholei, elected Nairobi Branch Chairman Dan Shikanda, and Tom Alila, who were ordered to first drop the cases in court against FKF for their bans to be lifted. On the other hand, coach branch officials Asha Pili, Hamisi Mayoyo, Evans Mwachia, and the Kenya Football Referees Association Secretary General Otieno were pardoned. Well, I know what you're thinking about Kenyan football right now. Me too. Let's take a look at tomorrow's weather forecast. Well, thank you so much, viewer, for watching GBS Late Night News. On behalf of everyone who made this possible, do have yourself a good night. My name is Eric Munene.